Gentlemen, stick around. We're going to learn about the Battle of Darbone Landing. That's the James Hunter 6 here on the new Rue 102. I am Rick Godley here on this, happens to be the 28th. Matter of fact, this is the dates that typically would end the month of February. However, I'm thinking this is a leap year. I don't know, because tomorrow we got another day on the calendar, as that usually called Sadie Hawkins Day. We're fired up the live stream now. For folks that are going to be watching this now and or later, is you're going to say, man, Rick, where did you get these scallywags? Are those fighting words? We have Brian McClure, Buckskin Billy back in the studio. Gentlemen, good morning. How are you? Is a scallywag a good word?
Not for us.
No, not being in Louisiana, no.
It's not a good word. Okay, well, there we go. We got the microphone turned on. So it's not a good word?
No.
All right, so I start off on the wrong foot first, right here. So since I'm an ex-Yankee, I mean, go easy on me. Go easy on me. Well, first there, Buckskin, let me start with you. You came here to talk about what you had at the Union Parish Museum a couple of weeks ago. Tell me how that went.
It went well, considering that it rained, but it did go well.
That is a microphone. There you go. Kind of treat it like a quasi ice cream cone, you know? There you go. So it went well.
Yes.
All right. So past that, Mr. Mike, over to Brian McClure. Brian is at Polaris of Ruston, been there for years. But Brian, you probably told me in the past when I was calling on you that you were a reenactor. But it didn't hit home till I saw you there a couple of weeks ago at Barry Gilliland's office. Tell us a little bit about, first of all, yourself and how you got involved, because I know you're from Mississippi.
Yes, I started reenacting probably when I was in my 20s in Mississippi, and then, you know, as life goes, I sort of took a break from it, and when I got over here in Louisiana about 12 years ago, I met some guys, and we just kind of hooked up, and I started reenacting with them over here in Louisiana.
Well, it's more than a passion. It's a lifestyle. So and it's something that, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's more than just a hobby as well, right?
Yes. I mean, it's really being dedicated to this. I mean, Buckskin can tell you this. It always seems like we're buying one thing or another, always trying to improve our impression, you know, because we, you know, everything that we do, the uniforms that we wear, the guns that we use, you know, they're all as authentic as possible. And it's just one of those things that you just steadily work to improve as you go through it. You know?
Well, a network seems to develop, and where I'm going with this there is, Buckskin, when you were here and we did the live stream, other friends around the United States, because your work is coveted by a lot of folks once they find out about it, in what you do by actually creating authentic, what am I trying to think? Clothing, apparel, shoes. Am I right? And so that people, that they respond and they come on and say, you know what, I want to be part of that.
Yeah.
Like the hats. The hats is where I was going to go. Is that you didn't make that hat? Somebody else who shared the live stream, who is a hat maker.
Correct.
Who is that? Give him props, because he's going to be.
Hats by Grizz. Hats by Grizz, made with joy. Grizz has been making these hats for years, and he's got a wife named Joy, and she sews the hat bands in. So Hats by Grizz, made with joy. Do
they do frontier gibberish as well when they make those hats?
Yes, they do.
Oh, they do. So you can mix joy and so from frontier gibberish cussing, right?
Oh yeah, I feel like Grizz is probably a master at frontier gibberish.
All right, the Battle of Darbone Landing is going to be March 9th and 10th at Darbone State Park. And entry to the park is all to get in, but it's free. This reenactment is going to take place on 2 days. Brian, tell us how these reenactments go. I mean, do you all get there like the week before, the day before, 2 days before? Because, I mean, you literally, quote unquote, set up camp.
Well, it all kind of starts months and months in advance. I mean, especially with getting all the amenities as far as firewood, you know, getting everything laid out and planned, plus going out there and making sure the battlefield is the way you want it to be. But as far as being boots on the ground, probably a couple of days before the reenactment starts, go ahead and start setting up the camps and the fire pits and things like that.
How many reenactments have you partaken in, guesstimate? How often do you do this in a given year?
Oh, in a given year, at least, I I'd say we'd do at least around about four big ones. Yeah.
All right. So is this a big one? And if it's not, what are the big ones?
This is probably a mid-size event. Some of your bigger ones would be, of course, in April, you'll have probably one of the biggest ones in the state of Louisiana, the Battle of Pleasant Hill.
Pleasant Hill, I've heard about that one.
And this year is the 160th anniversary of the Red River Campaign that Battle of Pleasant Hill was part of. We're expecting probably double the amount of reenactors that we normally have, so we're probably looking at, I don't know, somewhere around about 800, close to it.
At Pleasant Hill or at D'Arbonne?
At Pleasant Hill.
At Pleasant Hill, okay.
But, as far as D'Arbonne, we're probably going to have a little over 100 reenactors that's already registered. We've got 6 cannons that are lined up to be there. So everything's shaping up to be pretty good.
6. I guess a forewarning should go out because some folks, I mean, these aren't your silenced type guns and/or these are loud.
Yes.
So people, be prepared to be loud and be shocked.
Right.
Okay. All right. D'Arbonne Landing. And you guys, historically accurate, what are some of the myths or myths that folks need to be corrected on based upon your studies?
Oh, that's a big one. Well, I mean,
take your time. This is an open book test.
I think part of it is people have a tendency to believe history is what you see in the movies. And that's probably the biggest thing is what you see on TV. And a lot of people say, oh, I remember when Patrick Swayze went in that North and South, miniseries kind of thing. And so that's what they kind of think the Civil War and reenacting's all about, because they saw Ori Main and on North and South kind of thing. And it's much more than that. I mean, it's, we've got guys that, out there digging trenches, doing latrine duty. I mean, it's just like it was during the war,
Where'd you get your hat?
My hat, I actually just bought this one, but I do have ones like Buckskin, the brim type.
Right.
But the guy that I get from his, well, I guess you say business, is called Goober Grabber.
Give us some more information on Goober Grabber.
Well, he's from Georgia, so anybody, goobers being peanuts,
Right,
so,
right.
But that's his business. He makes a ton of hats. You can find him on Facebook. He is a very good craftsman in what he does. And he can make any style hat that you want from different time periods.
All right, so now this is presented by, because these are, first of all, we have a little logo up there, the 31st Louisiana Infantry Sparrow Cadets. So were they called the Sparrow Cadets back in the war?
That's what they ended up calling themselves when they first started. When they formed Company I out of Farmerville, they nicknamed themselves the Sparrow Cadets. And I actually, what I'm wearing today is, talking about uniforms and all, you kind of notice I'm not wearing gray today.
I noticed, tell me about it.
All right, this is a typical shell jacket that would have been issued to the 31st at the beginning of the war. This material is known as penitentiary cloth. And penitentiary cloth was made by penitentiaries, convicts in Texas during the war. They had to get uniforms out quick and fast. But so fast that they didn't worry about dyeing them either. They gave them straight, undyed uniforms. Now, as the war, as they began to fight, the uniforms turned kind of a khaki-ish tan color. But the soldiers were not very fond of them because they called them funeral shrouds or burial shrouds. I
don't mean to smile because that's not death and war is. Go ahead.
But that's just, like I said, that's just kind of typical what the 31st had when they first started.
What kind of fabric is it? Because I've heard this, and it's hard for me to believe going back to 1860, 1865. Woolen uniforms, and the Battle of Gettysburg fought in July with temperatures at the triple digits. I mean, that can't be comfortable. Triple digits in any kind of clothing is not comfortable. So what kind of fabric is that? And typically, what was the fabric of uniform?
It's a wool.
It's a wool.
This is kind of like a wool jean or jeans cloth, which is made from cotton. A wool jeans blend, and this was what you kind of saw typically on the Confederate side, and because one, it was cheaper, and it was somewhat cooler, but anyone can attest this wore jean cloth pants, they itch very bad. Wool is a little more comfortable, but wool is much hotter.
Sure, sure. All right, the third commemorative Battle of Darbone Landing is going to be coming up on March 9th and 10th. Bring the whole family out for the, just pay to get into the park and the presentation. The battle on both days, 9th and 10th, is free after you get into the park. And I would dare say that you probably can't book a cabin for that. You know what I mean? If people they're sold out already. So, but there'll be plenty of opportunity to bring the whole family to come on out for this 2-day event. And tell me more about the Elijah Ward Camp of the Sons of Confederate Veterans in Farmerville, as well as the 31st Infantry of Farmerville, because people that may watch this or listen to us may want to get involved. And how do they do that? How is recruiting going?
You want to talk about the Ward Camp?
Ward Camp is my home camp. I believe it was founded by our camp commander, Kevin Atkins. He's the one that's kind of heading this whole thing up. And we're part of the Sons of Confederate Veterans, and we just get together and have monthly meetings and do what we can to have our honor our ancestors. The Sons of Confederate Veterans and the reenactment groups are two different things, even though most people cross over back and forth.
What motivated you there, Buckskin, to say, you know what, I want to get involved in this, and when did that happen?
Well, I went to my first Civil War reenactment when I was a senior in high school, but it was just, at that time it was just too expensive for me to devote to. And I think it was in 2018 when I joined the Sons of Confederate Veterans, when I found out that I actually had a Confederate ancestor.
Mm-hmm.
I joined up just to learn more about that, and I never really intended to get as involved in it as I have. But
hobbies are addictive, aren't they?
Sir?
Hobbies are addictive.
Very much so.
And costly.
Yeah. Me and Brian here, we pretty much go somewhere every weekend.
Really?
This kind of stuff.
Really? Are y'all going to be heading to the Battle of Pleasant Hill? Do you partake in that?
We don't have a choice. We're pretty much expected to be there.
Oh, you're yeah. This is home turf. Brian, if you want to, I mean, you talked about, because I'm over the Lincoln Parish Museum and
Right.
Historical Society, and I get questions, and just because I look old doesn't mean I know everything. And my best answer is I don't know, but I'm hearing people like looking for some kind of, and I don't know if it was a Confederate camp at or around Dubach, Vienna, or was it a POW camp somewhere here? What was it, first of all? Do you know?
Well, when the war began, training camps began to spring up. And so they founded a camp called Camp Jackson, because Lincoln Parish, of course, did not exist.
Right.
And it was all Jackson Parish. They set it up 6 miles north of Vienna. There's a book out there by William King about the 28th Louisiana Infantry. The chapter 2, I believe, talks about his time he spent at Camp Jackson. Basically, going there, walking from Monroe to Douglas and all these places down the Bar Line Road, and ending up camping a mile away from Vienna, and then later on that day going 6 miles to the camp. The camp was set up. In the diary, they talk about how they used to go swimming and take baths in the Darbone behind 1 mile behind the camp. Mm-hmm. When they first got there, of course, there were no supplies, no guns, no anything. So they basically practiced with sticks. They trained with sticks. And now back around about 1863, the camp changed into a prisoner of war exchange camp. And I'm trying to think of the guy's name off the top of my head. It was like Aber Octavius. I can't remember his last name. He was the 14th governor of Louisiana. He was the commandant there at Camp Jackson.
The Battle of Darbone Landing, March 9th and 10th. Help us help them by pushing the message out as far and wide as you can. True or false? I mean, I've heard this, everything's just a fact until it's not. The Battle of Vicksburg, could you hear the cannon over in Monroe? That's what I've heard. Is that?
I've heard that too, but I really kind of doubt that.
Yeah.
But now Monroe, you might could.
Okay.
But I don't know.
That's pretty far, even though it's flat.
Far. Right, it is pretty far.
What about reenactments at Vicksburg? Do they have them? Do you partake in them?
Yes, they have things at Vicksburg from time to time. They usually are always doing something around the 4th of July.
Right.
To commemorate the siege of Vicksburg. They usually take place around the old courthouse museum downtown. But the thing about it is, a lot of people don't realize that there's a lot of history around here. It's just that nobody really talks about it or has researched it. A lot of people don't know that Jesse James and Frank James and the James gang were here. They don't realize.
I've heard that. I heard they did a 2-for-1 on a stagecoach robbery. Is that true?
That is true. And there's a reason for why they were down here. Basically, after Quantrell, everybody's heard of Quantrell, I'm sure, notorious Missouri guerrilla. Basically, after the raid on Lawrence, Kansas, he was headed to Texas because of all the heat in Missouri. There was a lot of bad stuff that was going on in northeast Louisiana. A lot of farms, civilians killed and things. And the governor of Louisiana at the time reached out to Quantrell. Would he be willing to kind of help squash some of this activity? And that kind of gave rise to what we portray and reenacted on the side as the Louisiana Bushwhackers. And basically, you had Jesse James, Frank James, the rest of them operating out of East Carroll Parish.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of stories out there with them. I had one story I read in a diary of a woman over there in Carroll Parish said Jesse James was the finest dancer she ever danced with. And she said he always carried 2 guns when he did. So it's just a lot of great stories like that.
One more question for the reenactors. When people show up, are there times for question and answer? Do y'all mingle with? Do you stay apart, aloof? Or because obviously this is a really sight to behold and a sound to be heard, but there's got to be questions that people have.
I'll let Buckskin.
We have Friday set up for school day for any schools that want to come out on a field trip. For them
Great idea.
For them to come through and see our camps and all that. And usually, I don't know the times on this, but usually we have a time between the battles where we're open to the public. Where the public can come in and kind of look at, see our camps. And we ask that you don't go in our tents and stuff like that, but you can walk through our camps and see our guns stacked up and see us practicing drills and kind of get a chance to meet with the reenactors and see what it is that we do.
Awesome. The Battle of Darbone Landing, March 9th and 10th at Darbone State Park. Come rain or shine, I would think, right? They didn't call battles off because, well, it's going to rain today.
We're going to be there regardless.
Regardless. And how about a Facebook page that folks can go to for more information?
For more information, you can go to the 31st Louisiana Infantry's Facebook page. 31st Louisiana Infantry.
31st Louisiana Infantry. Go there to find out more. And this is being live streamed. It'll be reposted there as well. Any closing thoughts, closing words we didn't cover today that you want people to know?
Go ahead.
I was going to say one thing I wanted to add in there, talking about the bushwhacker deal. This is something we'll be doing extra. We'll actually be doing shootouts, like we're actually bushwhackers fighting against Redleg, Jayhawk, or Yankees. So we'll be actually shooting pistols at each other.
Do they have to be real Yankees?
Well, we see the thing about it. Well, here's the thing. I've
been down here longer than I've been up there, right?
Every time we do this, I end up playing one of the Yankees, So we what we call galvanize. We play both sides depending on who shows up.
Got it. How about closing? You had something to say there?
Yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know that the Darbone Dutch Oven Cooking Society, is that what they call themselves? But they will be there cooking for us. We'll have 2 food trucks there cooking for the public. I think Sakura out of Farmville is one of them, Bruce Roberts.
With authentic fatback and tack or no? Am I saying it right, or am I just...
Well, no. Now we can cook you up some of that mess if you want to eat it.
No, I don't know if I want to eat it. I mean,
It's not too well on a modern day stomach.
no. Okay.
So, but no, it should be a great time. We're like I said, we really encourage people to come out. This is not something you see every day. We're going to be there having a battle at 2:00 on Saturday and 2:00 on Sunday.
Okay.
With the Bushwhackers, we're having their fight against some marauding Jayhawker Yankees that Saturday morning, probably around about 11ish. And like I said, everybody's welcome to come out. Listen, and I can only imagine if you haven't heard of Cannon before, wait till you hear them coming off the top of that water at Lake Darbone. So
2 p.m. they'll be firing up on March 9th, March 10th at Darbone State Park. And well, Brian, thanks so much for coming in, and Buckskin, thanks, man. I appreciate you coming on back.
Us.
Oh, you're welcome. Back to the music here on the New Rue 102, where it is the dramatics, and what you see is what you get. All right, we're still live, and so the radio's on. We don't need that anymore. What's a bushwhacker?
Okay, a bushwhacker was a derogatory term that was used to describe guerrillas, guerrilla fighters. Those that were basically.
Well, I would think a guerrilla is not a bad way to fight.
No, it's not.
And why would you derogate?
Well, the thing the bushwhacker term was given by the Union to the Confederate guerrillas. They called them bushwhackers because whacking them in the bush, sneaking up ambushes.
Obviously set up an ambush. They'd hide in the woods or the bushes.
Right.
And the Union had their version of it. They were called redlegs or jayhawkers.
Okay. I guess what I'm thinking, not trained in any of this, hadn't never fought in a combat battle, but it blows my mind that, correct me if I'm wrong, you lined up and somehow they chose who gets to fire first.
Yeah.
And you got to stand there and take it.
Yes.
Right? And then you fire second.
Yes.
Yeah.
That makes no sense in my mind.
It makes no sense.
And so, in my opinion, a bushwhacker. I'll be a bushwhacker person. I mean, I want the tree, I want the rock, and it's best,
Well, a lot of times these bushwhackers were, they were so far rural that they were too far away to join a regular military unit.
Mm-hmm.
And it would just be a bunch of good old boys, like the three of us saying, you know what, we fed up,
let's go do something.
Let's go do something. They take it on their own hand. And they got known as being irregulars, and when you start making hits like they were doing, and they got known as outlaws,
All right.
A good movie to watch, I hate recommending movies, but The Outlaw Josie Wales is a good movie that shows the bushwhackers, and it's got some hints of truth in it.
Okay.
And then another movie, Ride with the Devil, it shows a lot of bushwhacker, jayhawker type activity. Gives you an idea how they were formed up.
So a Jayhawk is more than a basketball player.
Right.
Yes.
Everything has a history behind
It sure does. History, herstory. So help us help them get this message out, and maybe we'll do this again sometime. Yeah, this is a good conversation, and maybe we'll plan doing it on the lake itself. So thank you.
Well, thank
it.
you.
For having us.
You're welcome. Streaming out here.